Alrighty, good afternoon, everyone. It's 1 p.m. We're coming out of recess from our morning session to hear several land use items. Dallas, could you call the roll, please?
Commissioner Thayer? Commissioner Pettit?
Here.
Commissioner Richardson?
Here. Alrighty, we've got 5 items on the agenda for today. The first is a update to a service plan. It's a presentation, not for decision at this time. And then we have 4 applications to be heard in public hearing. 3 of them are rezones, 2 of them are special use by review applications. For the hearings, they're all going to run in the same general order. The staff will provide an overview of the project. We'll invite the applicant to speak. We may or may not have questions of staff or the applicant at that time. We'll open for public comment. After public comment, we'll have staff and or the applicant address any other additional issues. We may have some discussion up here, and then we'll have a decision, and the decision can be to approve with conditions, deny, or continue if we don't feel we have enough information to come to a final decision today. So it's kind of the general order of business for everything. But the first item we have actually is an update to a service plan that CORE provided several months back. And so I guess I would turn it over to CORE at this time to run us through the slides. I guess before you start, sir, I would say I know you're planning for the future, so there's likely some new communities on the map that haven't even been applied for, but I know you're trying to read the tea leaves as we are, so thank you.
Yeah.
With that, I'll turn it over to you.
Absolutely. Good afternoon, board members. My name is Derek Holscher. I'm with Burns & McDonnell. We're a consulting firm that's been brought on by Core Electric Cooperative to help with the Elbert County System Improvement Project. We were in front of you guys, I think, late last year, early this year, to talk about the project at a high level, and now we got a little bit more detail. Wanted to circle back and give you an update ahead of getting our permit applications submitted. So that's what we're here for today. We'll just start off here, I guess. Excellent. You guys are all probably pretty familiar with CORE, but just a brief slide here that shows the service territory for CORE. As you can see, Elbert County in the green here is a good chunk that they have in their territory. But they are a non-for-profit cooperative. About 5,000 square mile territory is what they got. And a good chunk of that, 160,000 members they have, are in Elbert County, almost 9,500. So it's a good contingent of the territory there. They do have the 3 district offices, one in Sedalia, Bennett, and then Conifer, and as well as Woodland Park. So I guess that's 4 district offices they got. So just a high level there, a little bit about CORE. And then we jump into a little bit about the project description itself. It consists of a double circuit 115 kV transmission line, as well as 2 new substations, one called Spring Valley and the other being Outback. The interconnection for the transmission line will tap into an existing 115 kV line that was built back in 2019 that goes up into Arapahoe County down into Kiowa. And the point of interconnection is right around County Road 174. Right now we're kind of in the process of wrapping up our siting study for the substation as well as the transmission line. We're also kind of gearing up for some additional public outreach. A couple public open house meetings are planned for later this summer, where we're going to be looking to solicit information from folks in the general vicinity of the siting area. In that siting criteria, we got about 89 different items we're looking at, so we're trying to be pretty thorough, making sure we cover everything regarding that transmission line siting. So the basic need for the project is to provide additional capacity and reduce outages in this portion of the county. As I'm sure you're all aware, there's a lot of not only existing development, but anticipated and future development that's coming in the area. And right now, the services that CORE has just aren't able to provide the capacity for those developments. It'll also improve the overall distribution service in the area too. So this is a kind of a map that explains the need a little bit more. In green here, you can see the siting study area. That's the intersection right here of County Road 29 and 174. This line right here is that transmission line I mentioned, all the way from Brick Center down to Kiowa, that they'll be tapping off of. And then you have some of the planned development out here: Elkhorn Ranch, Independence, Miller Ranch, Spring Valley Ranch. So it kind of gives you an idea of where the development's going to be taking place, but it also shows, all these purple lines are the existing transmission that Core has in the area, and the substations that they have as well. So you can see there's nothing in this area here to fill that gap, to provide for that future development. These existing substations, they're too far away from the load center. Anything more than 5 or 6 miles, you really kind of lose the quality of the distribution service. So looking to get that, like I said, fill in the gap here. All these existing substations are pretty much at capacity as well. They can't take on any additional load. I know the Elizabeth substation is getting ready to be expanded, but the capacity that comes out of that substation, the load that comes out of that substation is pretty much already spoken for, and will service that Elizabeth area. Kind of zooming in here to a little bit more of the siting study area, if you will. Whoops, excuse me. So this is that intersection of 174 and 29. These are the 2 substations that I mentioned: Spring Valley on the west, Outback on the east, and here's that Kiowa Brick Center line that they're going to tap into. So it just kind of gives you a sense of the parcels that are out there right now. This is Sun Country Meadows subdivision. Here's Spring Valley. And at this point, we have at least the Outback substation site under a right of first refusal with the landowner. So he's agreed to carve off 10 acres for the substation site and is essentially setting that aside until we get our permit approvals, and then we'll acquire the property. And same with Spring Valley, we're working with the developer for that 8-acre parcel, and are close to getting the letter executed with them. The next slide kind of shows some of the transmission line routing that we're looking at, trying to get from point A to point B. These are some of the routes that we're going to be going forth with the public to get comment on. And we'll try to, incorporate any comments that we can ahead of getting our permit application submitted. But these are the initial routes that we've come up with. And then I believe the next slide, it just kind of drops in a couple layers here. This is a new development that's coming in that we're working with for the substation site. And there's also another development kind of happening right in the middle of our study area. So that's some of the reasoning for the routes kind of going around this area. One kind of cutting up through, and then we have a direct route from each substation site along County Road 174. But the purple and blue layers that you see there are the quarter-mile variants. The green represents the subdivisions that are in the area, and there's a current regulation in the code that requires transmission lines to be built no closer than a quarter mile from any subdivision. So that's just kind of showing the buffers that we're working against. If we have to go through, or if we end up getting approval for this line that goes straight from substation to substation, we'll need a variance in these 2 areas. Kind of hard to thread the needle right through here and avoid variances altogether and not bifurcate people's properties. We're trying to follow property lines as much as we can, so we don't, cut those parcels in half. And this is just a kind of a focused in view of the Morstead subdivision that we're working with. The substation is planned right down here in this flex commercial space, adjacent to a creek there. And then 174 right here will be ultimately built to go all the way through, and the transmission line will come through to the substation site here, kind of utilizing this open space with some trails. That's a use that can be compatible with the transmission line. And then I think the last slide here, is just kind of next steps. We're going to continue coordinating with the developers in the area as well as other stakeholders. Continue working on that siting study based on the current routes that we have right now. And as I mentioned, we're going to be doing those open house meetings later this summer, probably 2 of them, before we get our applications submitted. Which we do have, the variance application depending on the route. We have to rezone the substation sites, as well as do minor plats for those, and then the big 1041 permit application for the whole project. Assuming all goes well and we get approvals after those hearings, then we're going to, secure the easements and the properties for the substation sites and purchase those. And then construction right now for Spring Valley would be the first one on the docket, and that's 24-25 timeframe right now. And then Outback would be a little further down the road, 2028. But I think during the 1041 application process, we would ask for an extension to cover us on that Outback substation piece, so we don't have to come back and permit for it again. Get that set in place too with the rest of the project. That's all I had. Yeah, that's the last slide. So it's going to open it up for questions if there's anything I can answer.
The 115 kilovolt, that's essentially the same type of line that ran from Kiowa north a few years back.
Correct. I believe that one's a single circuit. This one will be a double circuit, so there'll be sets of wires on each side.
Okay, but
which may increase the height of the poles a little bit.
A single pole with arms versus,
correct.
but you're not talking the big metal lattice.
No, single steel monopoles with that weathering steel. It's kind of got a brown rust color to it, yeah.
No, I appreciate it. I think as you move forward, talking with folks in the community, it's probably useful to have some photos of what it looks like, because I think everybody defaults to the biggest, ugliest looking set of transmission towers, but
yeah, definitely that'll be a piece of the 1041 is the visual impacts, and we'll look at doing some photo simulations for the substations as well as the transmission line too.
And you said, as you kind of stated at the beginning, you're kind of pushing the limits of what you can provide right now. So.
Correct, yeah, I think we're currently even like 120 homes short of what's been approved so far. So any further development really can't happen until this.
And that's without electric cars?
Right.
Yeah.
Or some other alternative energy other than electric, yeah. So definitely want to get this through sooner than later, yeah. And feel pretty strong about the need. We just have to, like you said, solicit the comments from the public and see what we can incorporate into the project.
Yeah, and I think that'll be when in the areas where you are moving and looking for variants, I'd really ask that you work as closely as you can with those existing communities.
Sure, and I understand you guys also represent the Board of Adjustment who would hear a variance application? Is that correct? Okay.
Likely come in as one set of applications to us.
Right, okay.
Great. Thank you for your time.
Yeah, likewise, thank you, appreciate it.
All righty, the first application we have to hear today is actually also from CORE. It's to support expansion of the substation that's on County Road 13, just north of Elizabeth. We'll give staff a few moments to get set and slides up. And as I said, the staff will present, and then we'll have the applicant and public comment. Yeah, I guess that would be a good thing. Yeah, I'd accept a motion to open public hearing on this item.
I'll make a motion. We open public hearing on Core Elizabeth Substation Rebuild, case RZ-22-0010.
Second.
We have a motion and a second to open public hearing for case number RZ-22-0010. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Motion carries. We're in public hearing, and Greg, the floor is yours.
Thank you. My name is Greg Thompson. I am the CDS director for Elbert County, and will present this case to you today. We do have 4 applications this afternoon, so have several that will come across today. So the Core Elizabeth substation, case number RZ-22-0010, is located to the north of Elizabeth in the northwest corner of the county. There's an existing substation there. The request before you is a rezone. So that existing substation is zoned industrial. What they're interested in doing is buying some additional land immediately south of that and rezoning that as well. So the application before you is a rezone from agriculture to industrial. The size of the property is about 1.75 acres, and Core is the applicant. There are two other applications that are being reviewed on an administrative level. The minor plat creates that 1.75 acre parcel, and then the minor special use review addresses the changes to the site that are part of their upgrade for their substation. The pre-app for this case was held in January, community meeting in March. The application was submitted at the end of March. Hearing dates before the Planning Commission were on June 7th, and today, which is actually not the 23rd, but the 22nd. The aerial kind of shows the location. You have County Road 13 running through the middle of the site. Immediately west of the word county in County Road is the existing substation. And then the subject application before you for the rezoning is immediately south of that and outlined in red. The zoning map shows what exists surrounding the site. It's principally agricultural, although there are some PUDs in the area that are principally residential in nature. Some of the site's specifics for you, showing a little bit closer look at the substation, how it exists right now, and changes they'd like to make. You notice on the right-hand side, the access is proposed to change, is proposed to move further to the south. Fire department was in favor of that, gives a little bit better sight lines than what was currently on the property. There's a curve in the road there and such, so it makes it a little bit easier if that access is moved. But the rezone area on the left-hand side shows the area that's to be rezoned, which is about 1.7 acres. Referral responses were received from Elbert County Public Health and the Public Works Department, the Assessor's Office, and Building, as well as the Fire Protection District, U.S. Fish and Wildlife, Kiowa Conservation, and the town of Elizabeth. The applicants acknowledge those comments that have come in. Review criteria for a rezone, we'll go through that, but it's Article 3C4 of the zoning regulations. The first one addresses the comprehensive plan. There are really no particular goals and policies that are tangential to the expansion of utilities. The rebuilding and expansion of the utility service on the property and adjacent property or parcel will allow for the electrical capacity to be increased to meet the demands of the growing county. That's essentially what they're doing and what they just explained about their other portion of the site or county that they're working in. It's predominantly an agricultural and residential area. The adjacent 2.5 acre parcel is already zoned industrial where their utility facility is located right now. So the application they have on that site is a special use permit for utility service major, and they're just adjusting what is on that site. They're basically pulling something out and putting something else in, with the exception of one building. So that's why that minor special use review is appropriate for that as well. Next criteria talks about the surrounding land uses and how those are compatible. Talked about that a little bit. It's primarily agricultural in the area with some larger lot residential. Third criteria talks about public services. Essentially, that's what they're doing, is providing and upgrading their public services, the utility services that are needed for folks that live in the area or moving into the area. Next one talks about the environment. Really no particular impact to that. Again, pulling out what's there and putting in new. Next one talks about traffic congestion. Really the adjustment of the access will provide better access to County Road 13. So fire was in favor of it, looked good from a public works standpoint as well. The last one deals with the health, safety, and welfare. Having good, consistent electricity in the area is certainly something that's important. So from a review criteria standpoint, it seems to meet that one as well. The Planning Commission held a public hearing and they recommended to the Board of County Commissioners approval of the requested rezone, case number RZ-22-0010, which is a rezone from the existing ag to industrial for that 1.7 acre piece. There are some conditions of approval. They have to remove the public hearing sign. Fees are paid. It needs to be recorded within 180 days, which are all kind of standard and typical. Then with those other two applications, they need to be approved as well. So that minor plat and then the minor special use review. The access needs to also have an asphalt apron or approach. That was something that Planning Commission talked about, and the Director of Public Works had also talked about that as well. So wanted to make sure that that was something that was well called out. The applicants have expressed a willingness to do that as well. Be happy to answer any questions that you might have. The applicants are here as well.
Any questions of staff? Okay. Just, I guess I'll ask you or the applicant, just during the community meeting, were there any concerns raised? Seems straightforward, but.
I will let the applicant respond to that. I wasn't at that one. I don't believe that there were, but I might let him respond to.
Okay, well, if you could answer that during your present.
Yeah, Tony Polak. I'm with Core Electric Cooperative. I'm the project manager. No, there was no public comment. Not a call or a letter came in when we did our referrals. Not a lot of adjoining residential out there, but nothing did come in. I didn't bring a presentation. I thought Greg covered what we're trying to do there pretty well. Basically a rebuild of the existing substation. To kind of tag on to what Derek, our consultant, was saying, it's all need and demand, right? So this is more west of the project that he was describing. This is more north of downtown Elizabeth, mostly fueled by the Independence development. We've already had requests for them to have 2 new dedicated feeders coming out of this substation. Which is a lot. You can get typically about 1,000 homes per feeder, and they want 2. I think they have 1,600 more homes planned there for a couple more filings, and that's just them. So, trying to get ahead of the demand, try to keep up with the reliability. So it'll kind of bring that substation up to current standards and essentially probably almost double the capacity available.
Just a quick question, timing?
Construction, we'd like to be moving dirt August 1st. We're kind of getting through these approvals, and then we got a few construction permits to take care of, and we're ready to go. Last about 6 to 9 months, probably 6 months, and a few months of cleanup, reclamation.
Okay. And I just have one, and it's not related to the rezone, but the actual project. Said starting in August, do you expect an interruption in provision of power, and for how long, or so folks are?
No, typically we can switch. A lot of our substations are built with redundancy coming from an adjoining substation from another direction. So it's doubtful there'd be outages. If so, they're usually minimal, and we always inform the customers prior to.
That's good to hear. We didn't always have that luxury out at this end of the line. So with that, sir, I would open this for public comment at this time. If there's anybody that wishes to make comment on this application. Seeing none, I'll close public comment and have one more question. There were a few conditions presented. Are you willing to accept them?
Yep, no problem with any of those.
So with that, I would accept a motion to approve with conditions as presented.
Mr. Chairman, I move that we approve Core Elizabeth Substation Rebuild RZ-22-0010, including the conditions of approval.
I'll second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second to approve this application with the conditions that were listed during the presentation. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye, motion carries. I would accept a motion to close public hearing on this item.
I'll make a motion, we close the Core Elizabeth Substation Rebuild, case number RZ-22-0010.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second to close public hearing on the Elizabeth Substation rebuild. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye, motion carries. We're out of public hearing. Thank you, sir.
Yep, appreciate your time today. Thanks, Greg.
Alrighty. As we move into the next one, I understand this was the Jimenez Torres rezone. I understand that you wanted to recuse yourselves.
Mr. Chairman, I've owned this piece of land 3 times, and the people that own it now purchased the land from me. So I think it would be inappropriate for me to sit in this hearing, so I would like to recuse myself from this hearing.
Oh, thank you. Yeah, we'll open once you've departed.
I'll make a motion that we open the public hearing for Jimenez Torres rezone case RZ-21-0074.
I'll second. So we have a motion and a second to open the Jimenez Torres rezone. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Motion carries. We're in public hearing. So with that, Greg, I'll pass it on to you, and we'll pretty much follow the same sequence that we did for the previous hearing.
Thank you. Again, I'm Greg Thompson, the CDS Director for Elbert County. Case before you on this particular one is the Jimenez Torres rezone, case number RZ-21-0074. It's a request to rezone property from agriculture to agriculture residential, or AR zoning. The property is located about 3.4 miles southwest of Agate. Show a map here in just a moment. It's on County Road 162. The general location is shown there in red, more of the northeast portion of the county, but it is west of Agate and west of I-70. The property owner is Jorge Jimenez Torres. There's a concurrent review going on with this, a minor plat to create 2 parcels. That's case number MP-21-0075. The pre-app was done back in October of 2020. They had a community meeting via Zoom in March of 2021. The application was submitted in October of 2021. Hearing dates, Planning Commission heard this in June 7, and the board today on the 22nd. All of the property surrounding this is zoned agriculturally. You can see the subject property kind of located in the middle of the screen there, outlined in red. Again, it's a 35-acre property. There's no development on the property right now. It fronts right on County Road 162. Just to give you a sense as to what they're interested in doing, this is the 2-lot subdivision that they're looking to create. Again, it's a 35-acre parcel, so they'd be splitting that into 2 17.5-acre parcels. But the rezone area would encompass all of the areas shown there, a total of 35 acres. The reason they have to do that is the minimum lot size in the agricultural zone is 35. The RA zone that they're proposing is 10 acres, so they are compliant with that zone category, should that be approved. Referral responses were received from a variety of folks, including the Division of Water Resources, Public Health, Mountain View Electric. All had some additional comments that were raised and were addressed. Agate Fire, Elbert County Public Works, and the assessor's office and building also responded, as did the Kiowa Conservation District. The rezone criteria is found in Article 3C4 of the zoning regulations. And that criteria includes, talks about the comprehensive plan. There are a few comprehensive plan policies that do address this sort of zone change at this location, including having a policy that addresses new development needs to conform to state laws in terms of water supply and septic systems. Also, natural resources. There's a policy that talks about new development should minimize negative impacts to adjacent agricultural lands. Seems to comply with that criteria. The next one, it's compatible with the surrounding land uses. That area of the county is fairly sparsely populated. There's not too many 35, or there's a variety of 35-acre properties out there, but not too many that are under that. There is one south of there, within a quarter mile or half mile or so, but there's not too many in that general area. However, 17-acre parcel seems to pretty well fit with what's occurring in that area. Next one talks about public services. Really very limited impact to public services. They'd be putting in water well and septic systems. They would be using that road a little bit more, but for a little bit of traffic, there's very limited impact to public services. Next one deals with the environment. Staff does not believe there is any significant impact to the environment for the creation of 2 lots where there's currently 1, and the rezone that might be associated with that. Next one talks about traffic congestion. I don't anticipate any traffic congestion to occur in this general neck of the woods for at least a good long while. So it seems compliant with that. The last one deals with the health, safety, and welfare of inhabitants of Elbert County, and this seems compliant with that as well. The Planning Commission recommended the Board of County Commissioners approve the requested Jimenez-Torres rezone, which is case number RZ 21-0074, subject to the following conditions. The 3 basic conditions of approval: that they remove the public hearing sign, they pay all their fees, and it gets recorded within 180 days. Be happy to answer any questions you might have. I believe the applicant is here as well.
I don't have any at this time. Mr. Jimenez-Torres, did you have anything you wanted to add? Yeah, if you'd come up just so we capture you for the record.
Thank you very much for taking this. I don't have anything else to ask unless somebody has any questions.
Assumption here, because I'm not seeing the subdivision, just we're here in the rezone, but I assume that's the purpose of this, is to have a second property and a second home for...
Yes, for our families, yeah.
Okay, yeah, and I know for an ag property right now, we do allow 2 homes, so it's not a major change to what could have been there anyway. So at this point, I would ask if there's any public comment, and seeing none, I'll close public comment. And since you're here, there were the 3 conditions of
Yes.
recording, paying your fees, and removing the sign. I assume you accept those?
Yes. Actually, right after this meeting, we're going to remove the sign.
We'll wait for a decision, I hope.
I'm sorry. Yes,
No, with
of course.
that, I would accept a motion.
I'll make a motion, we approve Jimenez-Torres rezone case RZ-21-0074.
I'll second. We have a motion and a second to approve the Jimenez-Torres rezone with the conditions that were presented. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye, motion carries.
Thank you.
All righty, thank you. And I'd accept a motion to close public hearing on this item.
I'll make a motion, we close public hearing on case RZ-21-0074.
All righty, I'll second. We have a motion and a second to close public hearing. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. We're out of public hearing. I assume Greg went to go get Grant. guess it's 1:35, we'll just sit in recess for a moment. You are allowed back, yeah. There was lots of arm wrestling and arguments and, yeah. Okay, thanks. I guess it's 1:36 and we'll come out of recess. For the purpose of, now we'll be here in the Tenderfoot 2 special use by review. Again, slightly different than a rezone. This is a non-permanent approval, but for a special use on the subject to conditions on a piece of land. So I'd accept a motion to open hearing on this item.
I'll make a motion. We open the hearing on Tenderfoot 2 Special Use Review Case SU-22-0027.
Second.
I have a motion and a second to open public hearing on this item. So,
Aye.
What's that?
Aye.
Oh, we did, yeah. Aye, okay. I guess I need to call for that. All right. So with that, I'll pass it over to Greg.
Thank you. Again, my name is Greg Thompson. I'm the CDS Director for Elbert County. The application that we're considering now is so-called the Tenderfoot 2 pipeline case number SU-22-0027. The general location shown on the map is in the far northwest portion of the county and extends 7.8 miles across that area of the county. An aerial again showing the location. It basically extends from along County Road 178, where there is a already approved oil and gas well pad. Goes past another couple well pads within that next mile or so east of there, and then makes its way up to the Vulcan mine pad that's in the far northeast corner of this particular shot. There is connection from that Vulcan mine pad about a mile north into Arapahoe County. So that line is already in place. It was allowed to be put in place via a minor special use review. This is a major oil and gas facility because it's collecting fluids from more than one well pad. So as it goes by multiple sites, it's one pipe that includes fluids and gas from multiple locations. The zoning that this pipelines, or these pipelines, if you will go through is all zoned agriculture. There are a variety of residential subdivisions that are both north and south of areas of this line, but generally speaking, it's a relatively undeveloped area that it's going through. The submittal was on March 25th of this year. Planning Commission had a public hearing on June 7th, and is before the board today on June 22nd. So we talked a little bit about this. The special use review is required to go through both Planning Commission and Board of County Commissioners review. This is for what's identified in our code as a major oil and gas facility. Talked about that because it's collecting fluids and gas from multiple well pads. Pipeline is 7.8 miles long, and it collects from those multiple already approved oil and gas well pads. They may not be fully drilled yet, but the expectation is that those will be drilled here over time and that they will then contribute those fluids to this or to these pipelines. The applicant is Tenderfoot Pipeline Company. As mentioned, the location connects the Crystal Ruby well pad to the recently constructed Vulcan well pad. The site size, there's an easement that goes across these properties that were identified that varies from 75 feet wide to 30 feet wide, and the zoning is agriculture. This is a site plan that kind of shows where those different well pads are. Those are the red dots on the map. And those kind of individual segments then were identified as part of the site plan in the packet of information, but gives you a general sense as to where those are going. This flows from the southwest to the northeast, as they collect it basically at the western end of this site, and it flows towards that northeast corner. Referrals were received from Arapahoe County, Building Inspection, Corps, the Division of Water Resources, and Public Works. Corps just wanted to make sure that their existing easements and any lines they might have where there'd be some intersection between the pipelines and their facilities would be preserved. These pipelines, just to understand just a little bit more about them, would be located in the ground. The applicants kind of talk about how deep that would be, whether it's 3 or 4 feet or how deep that would be, but it's something that they go in, they kind of grade it, they trench it, put the pipe in, and cover it back up and then reseed it. So you'd see something while they'd be doing that, but afterwards, within X amount of time after grass has grown up there, probably couldn't tell that that pipeline existed. There are 2 locations where they would have pipes come up above ground that you could see. The applicants can talk about the purpose of those, but basically to maintain the lines and have some access to the lines.
They're called risers.
They have some of those riser things. The review criteria for a special use review is found in Article 3E5 of the zoning regulations. The first one talks about compatibility with the surrounding area. As demonstrated in the maps that we saw, there are no residential areas that they're going through. It's all zoned agriculture, so they tried to kind of avoid those residential areas and put it in an area that was much less developed, so it seems to meet that criteria. Talk about infrastructure. The applicants have an agreement with Public Works in terms of their use of the roads and their impact to that. So there's a use agreement that as they're both drilling it and then maintaining over time, they have that agreement in place. Next one talks about traffic congestion. They talk about a haul route as well. Where do those either drill rigs and or as they're piping it, where do they come from and go to? That's something that gets worked out with Public Works beforehand, so it meets that criteria. In terms of pollution, they could talk about that to some degree, but in many respects, having it in a pipe will perhaps reduce pollution in that you don't have trucks running back and forth carrying oil in particular if they're able to use a pipeline instead. So probably reduces it from that standpoint. It seems to meet that criteria. Sanitation requirements, there's really no sanitation needed for a pipeline. Landscape buffered and screened is the next criteria. They will put appropriate seed in place so that there's grass over the top of that pipeline quickly. Next one talks about health, safety, and welfare. Meets that criteria as well. And then these supplemental standards. The suggestion from Planning Commission was the following findings are made: that the proposals in conformance with the comprehensive plan and the zoning regulations, that the subdivision regulations are not applicable, the proposal is compatible with existing and allowable land uses in the surrounding area, and that the proposal will not result in significant impact to the health, safety, and welfare of the residents and landowners of the surrounding area. Therefore, the Planning Commission recommended conditional approval of the Tender Foot 2 pipelines. It's a special use review for a major oil and gas facility. Those conditions include the basic: you need to remove the sign, you need to pay your fees, and needs to be recorded within 180 days, and that, as Corps had asked, that their existing utility easements and any lines that they might have are preserved. The applicants are here as well. Be happy to answer any questions you have, and I'm sure they'd be happy to as well.
Just to make a comment, this pipeline that we're talking about here interconnects with a pipeline that will take the natural gas out of the county up into Arapahoe County. So this is what would be typically called a gathering system, whereas the first location is just And under Colorado oil and gas rules, you're not allowed to flare the gas anymore. So if you're going to produce this well at all, I know somebody that's got a petroleum engineering degree, so if you're going to produce these wells at all, you have to have a pipeline to get the gas out to a destination. I'm sorry for interrupting you. Go ahead.
So real quick, to follow up on that, I would agree with your statement. From that far northeast corner, there's an existing about 1.5 mile line that this line would be connecting to.
Yes.
That's already in place and goes into Arapahoe County from there.
Commissioners, good afternoon. My name is Max Blair. I am the regulatory manager for Tenderfoot Pipeline Company and for its parent, GMT. Thank you very much for hearing our case today, and I want to extend a very warm thank you to staff for all their help and work on this project as we've been continuing to invest in Elbert County and develop projects here. This is the first time we've had a chance to appear before you as the Board of Commissioners, but we have had many successful projects get worked through the administrative process in the county, and we have some great momentum now. So this is another step in the process for our investment and our development. I'll go through this presentation rather quickly, but I'm here to answer any questions you might have about it. As Greg mentioned, this is roughly 7.8 miles of new pipeline. One difference between this pipeline and what was installed previously is this will be made of HDPE, which is known as poly pipe. This will be a gathering system, and the pressures that will be required to transport gas from the wells on the west end of the project area to market won't be produced at very high pressure, so we're able to use a different material for this segment of the pipe. And I'll get into a little bit about the differences between poly and steel, but fundamentally it will be designed, engineered, and regulated just as any other pipeline, and be very safe to operate. We are the project owner, Tenderfoot Pipeline Company, and we have contractors and subcontractors lined up to construct the line. We'll be operating it once it's in service. As we mentioned, the where is on the map. It's roughly 7.8 miles, and in townships 664 and 665, all in the northwest part of the county. And we'd like to begin construction around July 5th. That's our planned start date. Next slide, please. The project team is made up of a much longer list than what we've provided here, but Vice President of our company, Tenderfoot, is Phil Wood. He's here locally in Denver. The whole project team is based here in the Denver area, Denver Metro. Dennis Snow, VP of Operations, is here today. He can bail me out of any technical questions you might have. BJ Cox is our production superintendent. Hans Schuster, our land manager. I am Maxwell Blair, regulatory manager, and Amy Butler helped prepare many components of the application, all the supporting materials. And together we have decades of experience in the oil and gas business. With regard to the pipeline, we have a couple of photos of what construction will look like. But as Greg mentioned, once it's built and in the ground, it will be almost invisible. We'll have pipeline markers at utility crossings, fence crossings, things like that, but it'll be buried 6 feet below the surface, and topsoil will be replaced and reseeded so that we can recover the land as quickly as possible. But this pipeline has been designed to a number of different standards and will be regulated by primarily by the federal pipeline regulatory agency known as PHMSA, Pipeline Hazardous Materials Safety Administration. We plan to operate this pipe at around 100 pounds per square inch, but the maximum pressure that it will be rated for was 265 pounds, so there's a fairly high safety factor there in terms of operating pressure versus what it can withstand. During construction, all the welds, joints of the pipe will be visually inspected. We'll actually perform some welding, and then 10% of those will be cut out and tested destructively to ensure that the bonds that are being formed are safe. And then once the whole system is in place, we will hydrostatically test the pipe at a higher pressure, make sure it holds that pressure so that we know it's ready to be put into service. We will survey all the joints and all the location of the pipe and register it with Colorado 811. We've already registered the right-of-way and the preliminary location of the line with 811. Once it's constructed, we'll follow up with as-built surveys, and that is to help ensure that any excavations that occur in the future that could cause damage to the line will be picked up through that system. So anyone planning an excavation should be notified of the presence of our line, and if they fail to do that, we'll still have pipeline markers that are visible along the right-of-way to help indicate that there's pipe present they need to be aware of. Lastly, once constructed, we'll return the ground to natural contours, reseed it using seed mix that the landowners have approved to ensure that we get these lands back into production as quickly as possible for agricultural use. And we'll have a pipeline integrity program, including leak detection. We'll perform aerial surveys, we'll perform inline inspections, all these things to make sure the pipe is operating as designed. Next slide, please. On the health and safety and environment side, we've taken great care to route the project to avoid sensitive resources. We will be boring under County Road 17 and all of the drainages, natural drainages that will be crossed by the line. And the process of boring is quite a bit less impactful to the feature that you're trying to cross. Rather than cutting through it, burying the pipe and covering it over, we'll actually be using a machine to drill under those features so that there's no disruption. County Road 1721 will not be closed during construction at all. We have, on the safety side, we have numerous safety plans in place. We have training for our construction crews and for our operators. We've been coordinating with Rattlesnake Fire Department on all of our activity in the area, and we've developed a very good working relationship with that organization. And I'll just take a moment to say we really are fond of Rattlesnake Fire and have had a great working relationship, and it's been wonderful working in Elbert County with that group as well. The pipeline will be constructed, maintained, and operated in compliance with all of the applicable laws. As I mentioned, the primary one will be Pipeline Hazardous Materials Safety Administration, otherwise known as PHMSA. It's part of DOT. We will be burying the pipe at a typical depth of 6 feet below surface, but it will be deeper at major features like drainages and road crossings. We will hydrotest it, and the selection of pipe material here for poly, it is a flexible, durable, weather-resistant, and corrosion-resistant material. It's in use all over the country for numerous utilities, water, sewer, gas, and it's a very effective way to transport liquids from point A to point B, pipelines in general. And then lastly, on the environment side, we did identify riparian corridors and decided boring under them would be the way to minimize impacts. And we will be operating under stormwater permits from both the county. We're getting a grading permit as we speak, and a state stormwater permit from the health department to ensure that our construction activities don't cause erosion or sedimentation outside of the right-of-way. Next slide, please. Just calling out on the map, a little bit different view than you've seen before, but the green circles all indicate areas where we will be boring, installing the pipe via boring versus trenching. Most of those locations are drainage crossings. The third from the left is where we will be crossing under Phillips 66 pipeline that's in service. And then the second from the right is where we'll be crossing County Road 1721. Next slide, please. So lastly, we've met all the required public notice, all of the public notice requirements. For this project, we mailed direct notification letters to all of the property owners within 1,300 feet of the parcels the project is on. So it's actually a pretty wide swath. Some of the parcels the pipe's located on are full sections of land. We've been working hand in hand with Community Development Services, and I'll mention Public Works and Road and Bridge as well, as we've planned and developed this project. Tenderfoot Pipeline Company has decades of experience in our organization, and we have the technical capability to construct and operate this project. We will maintain it under all the applicable laws, rules, and laws. We have a service agreement in place with Rattlesnake Fire District. We received unanimous approval from the Planning Commission 2 weeks ago to move this forward to the board. And staff is also recommending approval. I will make one request to you today that's a little bit different, I think, than what the staff report says. The condition, I think it's condition 2, is a recommendation that special use will not become effective until all documentation is completed and the exhibit is recorded. We are eager to begin construction as soon as we can. We've been working with Road and Bridge, and I believe we'll receive our grading permit today, if not today, tomorrow. The fees have been paid. So my request to you is that we could receive that grading permit and begin mobilizing equipment after your vote today. Hopefully you will vote to approve the project. I don't want to presume that, but that is our hope. With a commitment or a condition that we will finalize the special use exhibit, Mylars, get all the required signatures, and have it recorded in a timely manner within a matter of a few weeks. And I think that is my last slide, but I am available for any questions you might have.
All righty, thank you.
I've got a couple of curiosity questions. One, if I remember right, on these 4 pads, you're going to drill as many as 65 or 70 wells?
Yes. Is there a question about the number, or?
No, where I'm going with this is, what's the, with that many wells, what's the GOR? A gas oil ratio.
Sure.
Where I'm going with this is, what's the capacity of the line?
Yes.
Not, because with that many wells, I'm trying to figure out what your expectations are.
I'll answer a couple of components there, and I may need to rely on Dennis Snow, our VP of Operations, for one of those answers. So you are correct. The Tenderfoot pipeline is being built to serve wells being developed and hopefully produced by GMT, our parent company. There are 3 sites shown on the map here on the western end of the line, and the Vulcan, which is in the upper right corner, that one of those wells has already been drilled and is producing into the first phase of the Tenderfoot pipeline. So this project will tie in and collect natural gas from each of those 3 sites. We have a drilling rig out on those locations right now, and a frac crew getting ready, working on one of the first wells that was drilled in this year for GMT. There's a total of 4 wells being drilled and completed this year that will tie into this line. GMT's ultimate plans would be to drill additional wells from each of those sites going both north and south, and that will increase the daily production volumes that will feed into this pipeline. But the timing and the pace of that development is still to be determined. There's a number of factors that will dictate to GMT how quickly those additional wells can be drilled, and ultimately how many of them will be drilled. The current approvals from COGCC on spacing and well count for GMT are 10 laterals within each drilling and spacing unit. So the laterals are spaced out about 500 feet from each other across a mile. But that is the ultimate spacing, the number of wells that will actually be developed, is probably some number lower than that, but there needs to be additional data collected from these first wells. 2 of them, the 2 red dots that are closer to each other, GMT is actually drilling the laterals that are on the west side of 24 and the east side of 23, and we will be collecting some data to try and determine whether there's interference between those 2 wells. And that will help ultimately determine the most efficient drill pattern and density to fully develop the drill and spacing unit, which is our responsibility as an operator, responsibility to the mineral owners that have granted us leases to allow us to develop these minerals. Back to your question about pipeline capacity. So we have a question that's yet to be answered on how many wells will be developed. Each of those wells, we have an estimate on how much gas they'll produce at peak rates, and then there'll be a decline over time. And then we have another question about timing that will have a big impact on the daily throughput of that pipeline on any given day. If GMT, we do have a plan that has regular development over a period of time, and we expect this pipeline to handle all of those volumes, all of that capacity. You had one question that I don't know the answer to. What's the GOR? So I might have to rely on 1,000 is the answer. Any follow-up questions?
Yeah, what is the capacity of the line?
Well,
At 100 PSI or 265 PSI, whichever.
how many MCF a day do we think we?
Cubic feet or whatever.
Yeah, at 100 PSI, far above 20,000 MCF a day. Yeah, 15 to 20 is what Dennis is saying. There are some, potential operational changes that could be made, some compression at the site that could bring that up. But we don't expect to have to operate above 100 PSI, and with that operating pressure, up to 20,000 MCF a day. An MCF, for those that don't know, is 1,000 M for 1,000 cubic feet of gas per day.
Just one, appreciate the thoroughness and the consideration with the boring under the county roads and also the watersheds. From the presentations, it seems assumed, but I just wanted to, you've acquired all the right-of-way?
Absolutely,
Okay.
yes. That was a question that we had to work through with staff as we made the application, and there was one question about whether we would be able to negotiate and acquire a private easement from all of the property owners. We were able to do that. Tenderfoot was organized with powers of eminent domain under Colorado statute, so that was a potential route, but was not necessary in the end.
Thank you. Our preference is always
We
with the
assumed
agreement of the
that would be the
landowners.
case, and worked hard on those negotiations.
Okay. And then just from your mailings, and I know they were extensive, did you get any feedback or comments?
Mostly support. Yeah. We did have some questions raised, and I don't think I mentioned this, but we did hold a community meeting on December 21st of 2021. It was very well attended. It was at the Spring Valley Clubhouse at the golf course. We had some comment cards that were submitted. We had some wonderful conversations with their neighbors. And the majority of the feedback we received was very positive. We did have a concern raised around the traffic. And honestly, the traffic concerns, as we got into the conversation, were more around the oil and gas development, the well sites, not so much the pipeline. We did submit some information to CDS on construction traffic for the pipeline, and it's far below any kind of volumes that would trigger, mitigation measures of any kind. Construction should only last about 6 weeks. And the process of building a pipeline is, you deliver your heavy equipment and they stay on the right-of-way off the streets for the duration of the construction project. It'll be deliveries of pipe and crews coming back and forth to the job site, but not a lot of heavy traffic. On the development front, where the concern was raised, GMT's worked very closely with the county to enter into a master road use agreement. We've designated haul routes. We've been monitoring the condition of those routes on a periodic basis. We have noticed some damage that's occurred through the development process, and we've worked with Road and Bridge to make those repairs. Either there've been a couple cases where GMT's performed the maintenance directly with the county's approval, or we've reimbursed the county for some maintenance and repairs that they've done. But that agreement seems to be working very well. We've amended it a few times mutually to add routes as they've made sense as the development's progressed. And we have bonding in place for the potential cost of repairs if we're unable to perform them ourselves.
For the request on getting the grading permit issued before final recordation of all the documents, that just be surface work, or
Correct.
There wouldn't be any pipe laid prior to?
Yeah, that we would be delivering the equipment, starting to clear the right of way, and constructing or excavating the trench, things like that. But the pipe obviously would not be put into service until all the final documentation is recorded.
I'd hoped it was obvious. It's
Yeah,
sometimes
absolutely.
gotta ask the question.
I can commit to that 100%.
Alrighty, I guess with that, if there aren't any other questions here, I would open it for public comment at this time, if there is any. Yes, sir.
Hi, my name is Dwayne Coggin. I live at 4550 Coal Creek Drive, and I would like to speak in favor of this. It would keep the oil trucks off the roads. It's certainly the safest and most environmentally friendly way to transport these goods, and we're all kind of suffering right now from the lack of energy and energy infrastructure. And also that it would benefit Elbert County both financially to help with roads and the infrastructure we all need for the county. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Do we have any other public comment? Okay, seeing none, I'd close public comment at this time. Any final comments or questions from here?
Greg, do you have any problem with changing that condition of approval a little bit to accommodate the applicant?
I did talk with Public Works about their request, and they didn't have any problem with allowing grading to occur prior to that. I don't know if I would necessarily change any of the conditions. We could certainly add one in if you like that says they can begin that work prior to number 2 being completed. So we could certainly come up with something like that. I don't think anything is wrong with leaving it the same way, too. It doesn't preclude it from happening, I guess.
Yeah. I guess as the applicant, are you okay with that understanding being public in this room? Or
Yes,
you want it?
Absolutely, and I appreciate that, Greg. I guess I'm not the one to say whether special use by review becoming effective, if that includes construction or the initial grading and the start of construction versus the putting the pipe into operations. And my read on that is that the land use request that we're making is to allow for the transportation of hydrocarbons through a pipeline and underground. So I think the process, it's not a pipeline until it's built and in service, essentially. So I'm perfectly fine with adding a condition that says we're allowed to get our grading permit.
Okay, why don't we just to make sure it's entirely clear, Greg, if you could just add the 5th in there, that grading permits can be submitted for and issued upon upon approval, or whatever there.
That sound. What I added in was grading, number 5, grading permits may be issued by Elbert County Road and Bridge prior to recordation of the SUR exhibit. The SUR exhibit is something that's required to be recorded, so I'd be kind of reluctant to change that too dramatically, but stating kind of specifically what they asked for. I initially put shall. If you want shall, we could certainly do that as well.
Well, maybe. I would hate for a defective permit to be issued, and we have to give it one, but, okay. So with that, are you satisfied with the conditions?
Very much, and thank you for your cooperation, flexibility. We have the pipe in the yard, we have crews standing by, and they're eager to get to work in Elbert County.
Okay, with that, I would accept a motion.
Mr. Chairman, I move we approve the Tenderfoot 2 pipeline SU-22-0027 with the conditions of approval, and they're accepted by the applicant.
I'll second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second to approve Tenderfoot 2 special use by review with conditions as stated. All in favor, please say aye.
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 Aye, motion carries. Okay, we're done. And I would accept a motion to close public hearing on this item.
I'll make a motion, we close Tenderfoot 2 special use review case number SU-22-0027.
Second.
Okay, a motion and a second to close this public hearing on this item. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. All righty. Anybody need a break, or we good? We're good. Okay. Okay, with that, I would accept a motion to open public hearing on our last item. It's the Liscott Custom Homes rezone.
I'll make a motion, we open public hearing on Liscott Custom Homes rezone case RZ-21-0082.
Second.
Motion and second to open public hearing on rezone 21-0082. All in favor, please say aye.
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 Aye. Motion carries. Greg, I'll hand that over to you.
Good afternoon, Greg Thompson, CDS Director, Elbert County. The last case before you this afternoon is Liscott Custom Homes, case number RZ-21-0082. It's a rezone from RA1, which is a residential zone, to commercial. To orient you to the site, the property is located in the far northwest corner of the county. Get into that just a little bit more as to where specifically it's located. The aerial provided shows the location of that lot. It's immediately south and to the east of County Road 166, which is Singing Hills, and then Windsong Lane, which is on the far west side of the subject property. Property is a 5-acre parcel. This is the existing zoning map. It shows the subject property basically in the middle, outlined in red. It is located in the Wind Spirit subdivision. It's lot 1 of that. There are a variety of different kind of uses around and zones around that site. Immediately to the east and adjacent to the site is residential lots. South of the property are 3 residential lots in the same subdivision. Immediately to the west of the property is a business called DB Speed. Across County Road 166, there are a couple of different businesses, a couple of different zone categories. There's also an elementary school that is northeast of the site. I included a copy of the final plat. It's kind of hard to read at this scale, so I blew up the particular site. It's still kind of hard to read, but nonetheless, this is the subject property on lot 1. Shows the other 3 lots as well. Lot 2 came before you last fall. There was a proposal to rezone that piece from the existing residential zone to industrial that was denied by the Board of County Commissioners. Lot 3, which is the third one down, kind of that pie piece, there is a single-family home that is under construction on that piece as well. You'll notice a cul-de-sac comes down the west side of the subject property. Subject property does also go out to the center line of Singing Hills Road. The application was submitted November 16 of 2021. Planning Commission hearing was held on June 7, and the Board of County Commissioners meeting is today on June 22nd. So there are two different applications that the applicant has applied for the zone change. And this zone change application from residential agriculture 1 or RA1 to commercial or C is reviewed by the Planning Commission and the Board of County Commissioners. The site development plan is a staff review. They've applied for that to provide an office and shop for a custom home builder. Their proposed design basically looks residential in character, but the use is that office and shop function. The landowner is listed there and doing business as Liscott Custom Homes. The location, as I mentioned, southeast of County Road 166 and Wind Spirit Lane. Property size is 5.01 acres, and the current zoning is that RA1, Residential Agriculture 1. I want to talk just a little bit about the EDZ, or the Economic Development Zone. The subject property is shown in red. The EDZ has a variety of different locations around this site, but it specifically is not included on this property because it's in a residential subdivision. The EDZ is not allowed to be located in a residential subdivision. Section in our code, I have it here somewhere, I can look that up, but does not allow for that to occur. Now, to be fair, the applicants are not asking to be included. It's just noting that that's not something that's permitted by the code. Referrals went out for this requested zone change that you're reviewing, including Core Electric. They had no concerns with the zone change, but they were concerned that there are a bunch of trees shown in their existing line and area there that they'll need to move vegetation for that. Division of Water Resources had a clarification that was required. Engineer septic is required for the Public Health Department. Public Works didn't have any concerns with the zone change, nor did Elizabeth Fire. Elbert County Planning had concerns that are noted in the staff report. Planning staff had recommended denial of the proposal as that came forth before the Planning Commission. A little bit of background on the property. Property was rezoned to RA1 and the 4-lot Wind Spirit Ranch subdivision was approved by the board in May of 2007. Mentioned earlier, but in October of 2021, Lot 2, the zone change to industrial was denied by the Board of County Commissioners. The review criteria for you to consider is found in Article 3C4 of the Elbert County Zoning Regulations. That lists out the different criteria for you to consider. The first one addresses the comprehensive plan. And the comprehensive plan, there's kind of a mixed bag between whether or not it does or does not comply with that. There are a variety of different criteria that related specifically to that that was in the staff report. Suffice to say that with any land use applications, there are kind of a mixed bag. Some of the criteria supports residential use, and some of the criteria in the comprehensive plan supports it being supporting of commercial uses. Staff reviewed that and fell on the side of it didn't comply with that criteria. The Planning Commission reviewed that and felt that it did comply with that criteria. Next criteria talks about compatibility with the surrounding land uses. As discussed as we were taking a look at that zoning map, there are a variety of different zones and land uses that are around this particular property, with some commercial and some residential. The residential immediately abuts the property immediately to the east and to the south, whether that's zoned or developed. It's developed to the east and it's zoned and to the south. The commercial is developed to the north. There's a gas station across the street. There's another business immediately northwest, and then across Wind Spirit Lane there's that DBC Speed property as well. Public services In reviewing that, there didn't seem to be any particular issues for the rezone in relation to public services. The environment, same thing, didn't have any particular issues in relation to that. The next one talks about traffic congestion. With the proposed use that they've talked about, probably not going to have too much congestion. However, the zone change creates a whole category of possible uses that would be on that property. So today the proposal is that kind of office use, residential look, but at some point in time that could be something that's proposed to change. Now that would have to go through a site development plan or perhaps a minor site development plan should that use change, but it does open up a whole range of uses under that category. The last criteria for you to consider is health, safety, and welfare of the inhabitants, and there didn't seem to be anything in particular in relation to that. So the Planning Commission findings that they forwarded on their review is that the proposal is in general conformance with the comprehensive plan. The proposal meets the criteria for approval in the zoning regulations. The subdivision regulations are not applicable. The proposal is compatible with existing and allowable land uses in the surrounding area, and the proposal will be would not be detrimental, to the health, safety, and welfare of the residents and owners of the surrounding area. Planning Commission recommended approval of the Liscott Custom Homes RZ-21-0082, which is a rezone from residential agricultural 1 to commercial for Lot 1 of Wind Spirit Ranch. Just as an observation, planning staff had the recommendation of denial that went to the Planning Commission. The Planning Commission vote was 5-1. One dissented on that recommendation. Be happy to answer any questions that you might have. The applicants are here as well. We do have somebody signed up to speak also.
Do you have any comments or questions?
Yeah, I just got one question. As I look at the plat, all 4 of those lots are platted as residential. Is that correct?
That is correct. So currently those are all zoned RA1, all 4 of the lots. I might show it a little bit better. Okay. The zone map here shows all 4 of those lots in the RA1 zone.
Okay. Yeah, I got some questions, but I'll hold until after the applicant has had a chance to present. So I would invite the applicant to provide any additional information you want us to have.
Afternoon. Thanks to the commissioners for seeing us. So in the Planning Commission, we went through a lot of details of kind of the history of this property. I don't know that it's necessary to go back through them in quite as much detail as we did before. After we spoke with Greg and everything, like you said, their initial response was they denied the application. Once we talked with Planning Commission, went through all the details, the stuff we had there, they, 5-1 vote was to approve it moving forward. Some things there, with the water, going back to the subdivision when it was first recorded in 2007, it was discussed back then about whether it was going to be part of this EDZ zoning, commercial zoning, in and out. So it had been brought up on the meeting notes clear back in 2007. I understand it was not made commercial at that time. But when they did do the subdivision, the differences between the lots, between lots 1 through 4, 2, 3, and 4 were issued a residential well water or shares for residential use. Lot 1 was issued commercial grade water from the Arapahoe Basin, which we got a letter from the water department saying it just needed to be converted over. That's what its initial use was meant for. With the septic system and design, we have submitted the full engineered plans to Elbert County Health Department. They've looked them over, approved them, so it does meet the water requirements for commercial and the septic system designed for commercial for the usage that we're submitting for. So we didn't have the issue with the water, didn't have the issue with the septic system. As far as traffic goes, we've done a traffic study on what our usage. Greg's brought up the point that it could be changed and have a higher traffic, but with commercial properties across the street, right next door to it, the school, I don't know that the traffic's a real issue. It won't be for us, obviously. We'll be keeping the traffic way down. We did have the community meeting. The neighbors addressed their concerns, and we kind of got brought in during the same time that Lot 2 was going in for a rezone for, I believe, RV storage or something like that. We have no intentions of an RV storage. We had our community meeting. We heard from the neighbors. We've met with several of them, talked to several of them. There's several of them here tonight, this afternoon. They've seen what we've proposed. We're trying to make this fit into Elbert County. Our company's been around 25 years. We're planning on being here another 25 years. We want to be part of the community. And we're trying to build something that fits into that, but still gets its commercial usage for what we're applying for. So those are the plans and concepts that we've done during this transition time to try to get everything to fit into it. Going back to the CCRs that were filed on this, they're very clear that lots 2, 3, and 4 are for residential use. Lot 1 was reserved for commercial use. So lots 2, 3, and 4, I understand they'll never be commercial, industrial, rezoned. That's how the filings with the county are stamped. I have a copy of them. And lot 1 was intended for commercial use. So us as the buyers of it and wanting to put our shop and office up, we was under the assumption that this would be looked at the same way that it was proposed over several years. So at this point, we're looking for approvals to be able to start submitting for a permit application to break ground as soon as possible. We've been in this process now for over 8 months, and it's become costly for everybody. So we're just looking to see what we need to do next to make it happen for everybody. Any questions?
Thanks. I was going to say, do you have any?
To me, it just, your application is odd, because the plat that's recorded specifically states RA1, and I'm puzzled why you didn't come before us with a plat amendment. So then that would make everything consistent with the way things are normally done.
We've followed the direction of Planning Commission from day one. When we first went in there, we met with Jennifer Klitsch. She had us file or submit like 3 concept plans of what we was wanting to do there. This is the route they directed us to go on, was the rezone, and we've been following that for 8 months now. So if there was a different route, I wish I'd have known about it, because I'd have filed it day one if it was going to be something that would help speed up this process, because this has been a costly one.
Yeah, since you did mention there were some folks here, we'll take public comment and then go ahead and have some questions. So I'd open for public comment at this point. Sir.
My name is Dwayne Coggin. I'm a partial business owner at 475 Singing Hills Road, which is adjacent across the street from there. I used to live there. I can attest that that area, the properties that front on that road have not been suitable for residential development for a long time. That's why I don't live there anymore. Another thing is there's a popular misconception that commercial gets a free ride and is a license to make money. We pay $24,000 a year in property tax on that 5-acre parcel, as well as collecting tens of thousands of dollars of road and bridge revenue, a lot of it coming from out of the area. And so if this area is commercial too, they will be shouldering a significant amount of tax burden and also bringing business to Elbert County. And just anecdotally about living there, there was a new residence, a modular put in there within the last 4 or 5 years, right next door to ours, I think kind of as a placeholder. But the U.S. Postal Service approached us and said, can we please use your commercial mailbox for that house? It's dangerous for our mail trucks to stop near that intersection on Singing Hills to deliver mail. So they come in our driveway and use our commercial mailbox. If it's dangerous for the U.S. Postal Service, how much more dangerous it is for residents and for children on bicycles or crossing the street to get an ice cream. It's just, I think it's much more suitable to the commercial use than the residential. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. We have any other, sir?
Good afternoon. I'm Gary Levinson. I live at 40550 Wind Spirit Lane. Prior to the rezoning, which I did in 2007, for 36 years I've been at 610 Singing Hills Road, so it's the same property. I did the rezone in 2007. After 21 years of living, I decided to rezone 20 of the 60 acres. In talking to Elbert County Planning at that time, they expressed to me that Singing Hills was going to become a commercial corridor, 4-lane, and that was the future master plan that was used. That was the term used for Elbert County. The gas station was already in existence. Parkline Estates had been in existence for about 15 years. As I said, I'd lived there for 21 years prior to that. So my decision was to rezone that all as residential. And the reason is that I had gone to commission meetings for the southeast corner of Delbert and Singing Hills Road, 10-acre parcel there, which is still there. They chose to rezone it commercial. And in those meetings, they said you can do A, B, C, D, and you can't do E, F, and G, etc. They named many different things. Well, I knew I was going to live there the rest of my life. And I wanted to have some understanding and some ability to determine what the use was going to be. I have no financial interest in this right now. I'm speaking as a neighbor and hoping to give you a little background as to how this all came about, but strictly as a neighbor. So in the rezoning of that, I realized, and everybody I talked to, when I sold Lot 2, Lot 3, Lot 4, when I talked to Parkline Estates, everything I ever communicated, because of what was communicated between me and the planning department rather, was that Lot 1 would be commercial at some time. What was important to me, as I've in the past in front of you folks, was that we not change the Parkline Estates, those people that have been there now 30 years, and keep it. And that's the reason I even, with these folks, I like their use. I had other people I could have sold it to, but they had a heavier use. Planning Commission in 2007 said, we don't want heavy use. We wouldn't have approved the gas station, they told me, at that time, with the septic and the all. So this has extremely low use, low traffic. It made a lot of sense to me. I reduced the price that they were going to pay me by $10,000 with the understanding that they were going to use that as buffering to Parkline Estates, and they have been extremely helpful in, I believe, in everybody that I've ever talked to, in looking after what their needs are, but also what the needs of the community are. And I think this is a good use for that property. I appreciate the fact of taking into account the lighting. I know that Elbert County has limited ability to police after something is developed. I'll bet you that if you had that ability and you were a neighbor there, there's a couple of properties there you would have policed. But this one, I don't believe you're going to have to. I think this is a proper use.
Yep. Thank you, sir. Ma'am?
I'm Vivian Peterson. We own the land 655 Madrid Court and 40955 Madrid Drive, the two that are right against it. When we received their application and looked at it, what they have planned is very reasonable. We have always known, we've been there 30 years, and as long as we have known that there'd be commercial, and this is a very acceptable commercial application. Our concern is down the road, should they plan to be there 25 years, but we don't know what's in store. Should they change, should something change? What is our protection so that a high traffic commercial entity doesn't go in there? A restaurant or another gas station or a car dealership or something. So that's our concern. Thank you.
I guess I would ask the applicant back up. We have questions or comments?
I'm just real quick to address one of them concerns with the high traffic use. This property is on a well, so that regulates how much traffic you can have going in and out of there, and it's also on a septic system. So to say you can go put a restaurant in there is pretty far-fetched as far as it goes with what your health department's gonna allow. I mean, the whole 5 acres would be a leach field, and you don't have any parking left anyways. So I don't think that that's gonna be a big issue, but again, we can't predict the future. I know what we're here to propose with what this is, so I'll open up for any questions.
Throughout this process, I think all 4 lots have sold to different owners. Have you talked to the owners of the other lots in the subdivision? Or
No, the one owner of lot 2, I believe, was on our community meeting.
Okay.
Elbert, as far as any direct contact with them, no.
Yeah, and I'll be honest, I struggle with this one, not because I don't like the idea of what you're proposing. It's just how it fits within our regulatory structure. And, our zoning regulations say that the purpose of rezoning, that process is to change from a historical use to something that's more suitable for current or future needs, or words to that effect. I don't know if 14 or 15 years establishes a new historical use or not, and but unlike a use by special review where our regulations kind of list that with additional review, there's some other things you can do, or a subdivision of something that's already zoned, where everybody in the surrounding area knows what could happen there. A rezone really opens up new uses, and I think that was mentioned by the last citizen that spoke. And I understand you want to make this a long-term business, but if something changed and it changed hands, it's still a commercial property with no other real restrictions on what could happen there. Grant had mentioned the plat amendment process, which, again, our regulations allow plats to be amended, but it talks specifically to minor things like lot line adjustments, building envelopes, easements, and those relatively simple changes require everybody that owns property in the subdivision to be in support. I know there's other properties in the area that are available. You had mentioned the covenants. I know they were filed quite recently, long after the initial rezone. And looking through the original files, there was a draft set of covenants that was filed with the original application that didn't speak to commercial at all. And I don't distrust what I heard today is what laid out there, but we're really contorting our regulations. I just don't see within our regulatory structure currently how you approve changing within a platted subdivision the zoning of a single parcel, certainly not without the approval of everybody that's a member of the subdivision. So, we can puzzle through that. I know how I'd vote today.
I guess we'll ask for the options, because like I said, we have commercial water on there, so I don't know how you're gonna build residential when you got a commercial water. There's some things in there that keep it.
And again, the water's controlled by the state, and you can repurpose a well depending on what the need is if the state approves. And the purpose of a public hearing is to make sure that everybody's rights are protected, not just those in this room, but those that aren't in the room today and those that may come after us. So I think there's a way to get there. I'm not sure if the process we have is the right one, or we have a process to do this. And like I said, if rezoning was one of the items that was listed in our regulations for a plat amendment, it would be very clear that part of this process is make sure that everybody that now owns a property within the existing subdivision is in agreement in order to move forward. And
Sorry,
I'm okay
and maybe
pursuing that, but
maybe I'm misunderstanding that. So if lots 2, 3, and 4 owners say they're okay with it going to commercial, then you guys don't have a problem with it?
Yeah, then it would be a plat amendment, but, and I'm saying, I think we have a regulatory issue just in the plat amendment lists several specific things that you can do under a plat amendment. Rezoning isn't one of them. I don't think that's inappropriate, but I think we'd have to do some adjusting to make sure, again, we can't just, because it's a good idea. I mean, as much as I'd love to say this is a great idea, I don't think it's supported by our regulations, so I'm more than willing to address those, and it would be a delay of many weeks. I'm not going to pretend it wouldn't, but shouldn't be more than a month or two to get through, because a regulatory change does take a planning commission meeting and back to us. But if that is something you're, if you're dedicated to this piece of property, I can't make promises for what's going to be the outcome of a hearing, but and this is my personal feeling, there are two commissioners can weigh in. I just don't think our current regulations actually support doing what you'd like to do. And as much as I think it's a good path, a good end state, we can't just make up rules or ignore the rules we have in place, or the entire public hearing process falls apart, because that is established to ensure we're protecting the rights of everybody involved, and again, those that are in the room and those that can't be here today. So that's my thoughts.
Mr. Chairman, I agree with everything you said there. In the letter that the applicant sent to whom it may concern, it says Lot 1 of Wind Spirit Ranch is not part of the Wind Spirit subdivision, but that's not what the plat says.
That was how it was proposed. That's how it was explained to us.
Yeah, I'm not arguing the point. What I'm saying is there's some details that we need to tidy up before I could vote yes. And I want the darn business because I think it's a good location. It's all of those things, but we got to do it right.
Our question from you guys then today would be, we're 8.5 months into this thing. It's costing us thousands of dollars every month. I know it's none of your guys' concern of what it costs.
No.
Eventually, we have to come to a conclusion. During our due diligence, when we went to the county and spent all the hours that we did, if this wasn't the route to take with the rezone, when everyone recommended it, then we would have done something different. If it was a replat, then we would have.
And I think if then we had the staff that we currently have, you probably would have been given better guidance. But,
probably would have already been done and passed through and moved on to something different. But this being said, this is where we're at. So we don't have a problem if we have to do a couple more months of stuff, but we need to know, is council on the side of it? Is just they don't want this to go commercial? We're not going to do it no matter what you do, and we're putting our foot down and quit wasting your time. Or, Liscott Homes, if we'll do this and approach it in this direction and spend some more of your time and money, then do it this way, we will highly consider this going through. We won't give you an approval today, but you understand our position.
No, I get it.
The ringer on this one. I've done developments all over the country, and this one's.
Yeah, and I know in many cases, purchases are contingent upon the approvals being granted. I know you've already gone through the
and our purchase is contingent on all that.
You own a piece of property, so.
So it's basically down to the point now is if it's not going to happen, okay, just let us know. We'll quit wasting your time, our time, and everybody's time.
If we suggested, and notice I didn't say tell you, if we suggested that you ask for a continuance for you to satisfy those needs, how do you feel about that?
Continuance to satisfy which need, I guess.
Well,
get the neighboring properties to say yes, or?
Again, I think.
I mean, what I'm hearing is it's kind of a done deal at this point in time.
My opinion, having been on the planning commission and been part of writing the regulations we currently have, is we've got to change our regulation in order to support. It's at least adding the line that a rezone is one of the things that a plat amendment can address. I mean, we have the plat amendment process, and I don't think it's any different than your rezone, other than the other owners of lots within the subdivision have to agree.
Now, one thing that was brought up in the planning, when we went through the planning review, I can't remember the gentleman's name, but, you know, he was pretty specific with his vote on the yes because of what the wind spirit, the covenants recorded was. And he said how that supersedes. Now, I don't know.
Yeah,
I'm saying what we was told from that meeting, so either he misspoke or, again, we
And I think in
heard
this
something
case,
wrong.
I mean, and no offense to what the paperwork that was filed or the gentleman that said it, but the clerks here, they'd record a bubble gum wrapper if you paid the filing fee. It doesn't change what the zoning allows. I mean, if somebody owned a 35-acre piece of property and put covenants on it themselves saying I can grow and sell commercial marijuana, we wouldn't allow it, or provided for uses in their covenants that the zoning doesn't allow.
Understand that. You can understand our frustration. Because we've been
It does
given
help illustrate
9
what was
different routes
intended.
on this thing, and we've been doing everything we can to try to keep our patience and work with the neighbors, and spent tens of thousands of dollars on redoing concept plans, landscaping plans, putting trees in, doing our lighting, and then we get to a point to where it's just not quite the regulation that it should have followed. So,
Yeah, and I
forgive me for being a little bit
totally-
brash with this.
No, and I understand your
Put yourself in my
frustration.
shoes too, so.
I share some as well, because to me, this is something that should have been recognized as a gap in our regulations a long time ago, and we could have addressed it simultaneously or prior to an application. But just because it's a good idea, I'm not going to vote to violate our regulations just because it's a good idea.
I completely understand that.
Not the role I
understand your guys' position. I've been down the same road, but I feel that should have probably been addressed, but.
I understand that.
So I guess what is our next move?
Yeah,
I mean, I'm gonna look to you guys to give me some
I
direction.
don't want you to have to go through a resubmittal process. I'd recommend a for a one-item chain, to roll a proposal to the Planning Commission to consider adding rezone as one of the plat amendment items, and then to us, it'll take a meeting for them and a meeting for us.
We'll have to take a look at that. I don't have that particular section pulled up or kind of looking at in terms of a zone change. Those usually, when they're looking at a plat amendment, you're looking at different criteria. You're changing the lines on a piece of paper, if you will,
right,
versus the rezone. I think that there was conversation with the applicant about that time last October about getting all the property owners to rezone the property rather than just the one individual property that had just come through that lot 2. And now we've got lot 1 that's proposed same type of thing, still in the same subdivision, but we only have one bit and piece to that. As kind of this conversation has gone on both at the Planning Commission and here, I think the woman who had spoken earlier, if there was a PUD that addressed perhaps the uses on the property, there might be some ways to kind of restrict that might help her concerns that were raised. If all 4 of these property owners had a PUD that allowed maybe different flexibility than what is ordinary or specific to a specific zone, that might be something to consider as well. Frankly, I didn't know of that interest or concern from the neighbor that spoke until Planning Commission. So that's something that we really hadn't gone down the path with the applicant. That might be something worth taking a look at as well, just as a suggestion.
Okay.
Yeah, and just real quick, I just want to comment on that as far as the conversation that went on with lots 2, 3, and 4 and all of it. I agree. Everybody there knew exactly what they sold for $180,000. This one was not represented.
Quite a bit higher, yes.
Not represented during our due diligence at the county that way. I was given very specific paperwork and told that this was supposed to be commercial and it could be deal and it wasn't going to be a big deal. I understand none of that matters. It's hearsay.
Yeah.
Understand our position.
Yeah.
Can't take a $650,000 property and turn it into a residential $150,000 lot without somebody taking a pretty big beating.
Right.
So that's kind of where we're at this point in time.
Okay, so anyway, there's two directions we can go. We could continue this for about a 2-month period, or end now, and you'd have to renotice for a new hearing once we knew the timeline.
Depending on what the application or what the changes might be, there might need to still be some renotice that would occur.
Okay.
Just to keep that in mind.
I'm sorry, what's up?
Depending on kind of what route you're interested in going down, there still might need to be some renotice that would occur if your application were to change to some degree. And that renotice just means putting something in the newspaper, putting a sign up, sending notice to surrounding property owners.
I'd imagine everybody's probably tired of seeing this one in the paper at this point. To be right honest with all the stuff we've done to this point. So, I mean, if we put it in for the umpteenth time, then so be it. But I guess from a financial position and moving on, to build an office complex, I mean, I guess we're going to have a conversation amongst ourselves. Okay. Obviously, I guess we would ask for a continuance now because we know we're not starting the process over. We can't go through another year of this.
Probably I know you want to speak, sir, but. Can I make one comment? Please do, so we can sort through this, but.
The rezoning as it was done is exactly at the direction of the planning department at that time. 2007, we all know what happened to the market at that time. That's when it just totally dove down. I chose not to do anything. Life gets in the way of life sometimes, which it did, and I didn't do anything until several years ago. But all of the rezoning of lots 1 through 4, with the covenants, I understand the concern or the question but there were covenants given to the county. They were not recorded, but they were given to the county at the time of the rezoning. It was always going to be exactly as we've talked about, and totally at the direction of the planning department. So I would hope that, and I don't know your position. What I mean is I don't know the technicality of your position, but I would hope that we as citizens can rely on what was done previously and directed previously by the planning department at that time.
No, I get that, and I understand. I mean, there's frustration throughout the room here, but at the end of the day, the staff makes recommendations, the planning commission makes recommendations, the Board of County Commissioners is the one that approves or doesn't approve, and what was approved in 2007 was a residential lot. I can't speak for what discussions happened around that. I can only look at what was recorded and what was the documents that we do have. But I think personally we can get to something that we could actually consider.
Well, I guess we'll ask for the continuance so we don't have to start over.
Yeah, if we continued to our second meeting in August, which would be, I don't.
August 24th.
Yeah.
Cancel if we get, we'll figure something else out. Okay.
What was that date?
August 24th.
Okay. And again, I've done a lot of talking. I mean, that's.
Now, I know your frustration because I've dealt with stuff in the past with the county and it hasn't been pleasant. So, but as far as the covenants and stuff, if they've just been recorded just recently and some of those lots have been sold, technically, if you're putting covenants on lots, anybody that owns the property at that time has to sign those covenants in order for them to be enforceable. I mean, the county doesn't enforce them, but usually covenants, if there's different property owners, have to be signed by all property owners in order to be, so I don't know what
my understanding is they were, when the other lots sold, that was how the covenants read,
Yeah, but I don't know if they were, when they were dated and recorded, you know, if they were recorded or dated after somebody had bought a lot, then that affects, you know, sometimes the validity of those covenants. So I don't know, I haven't seen the dates.
I don't know, I mean, obviously the covenants don't really matter of what we're trying to do
Yeah,
anyway.
right.
so.
No, I agree, but you were just mentioning that, but but, you know, if they're dated before any lots were sold, then they would probably be effective and stuff. But, you know, I would like to see your business go forward, but I'm sort of like Grant and Chris. We have to look at the way things are, and because if we start doing something that's out of the norm, then anybody's liable to come back.
Again.
No, and I understand
completely
it.
understand your position and not gonna bend the rules, and it looks like it's there in front of you guys like it is. My frustration that I'll express here, that are hearing today, is there needs to be some communication from up here downstairs, because there's a huge break in what's going on. And I can tell you that.
Understand.
'Cause I have hundreds of hours in this. This isn't just wing-dinged and I come up here and hope for the best. I've done this all over the country. This one is blowing my mind on how it's been handled. So I guess we'll leave it at that with a continuance, and we'll go to work on our end to see what we're gonna do next.
So what was that date?
Second meeting in August is the 24th.
Yeah, so I'd accept a motion to.
I'll make a motion, we continue to August 24th at 1 PM.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second to continue to a date time certain of August 24th at 1 PM. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Motion carries. I'll take a motion to close the hearing for this at the moment.
I'll make a motion, we close Lipscott Custom Homes rezone case RZ-21-0082.
Second.
A motion and a second to close public hearing. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Okay, there being no other business before us, it's 2:57 and we are adjourned.
I'll make a motion, we adjourn.
Okay.
Second.
Okay, a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.